Alright, so the first step to adjusting the rear derailleur is going to be to stretch out this wire, the rear derailleur wire. By pre-stretching the wire, we're going to help make our adjustments hold true for a longer period of time. So go ahead and grab onto the wire, really give it a good pull. This is especially important with a new wire. With an old wire you might not feel too much of a stretch, but really give it a few good pulls. You can see I pulled pretty hard on it by the indents there. After we've stretched out the wire, we're going to go ahead and thread in our barrel adjuster here so that we can tighten up the wire. After we've threaded in our barrel adjuster, I'm going to take an Allen wrench and tighten up our wire here. I like to pull this wire about as tight as I can with my fingers and then tighten it down. After we've tightened our wire there, next we need to set our limit screws. To properly make the high limit adjustment, first we need to take off this wire tension so that it doesn't interfere with our adjustment at all. So to get the wire tension off of the wire here, push in on the derailleur with your thumb so it goes up into the easier gears here. After pushing it up into the easier gears, you should be able to easily pull the wire out of the cable stop. After disconnecting our wire tension, now it's time to set our high limit screw. These two screws on the derailleur here limit how far up and down the derailleur can move on the cassette here. The high limit is going to control how far down the derailleur can come to your high gears, and the low limit is going to control how far the derailleur can shift up into your easiest gears. These are pretty important adjustments because they keep the chain from coming down onto your frame here and scratching it up, and also the low limit keeps the chain from falling into the spokes, possibly breaking a spoke or chewing up the chain. So if we screw the high limit in, it should make it so the chain will not ride in this easiest gear if we thread it in far enough. So the chain's popped up there. Now we want to make the adjustment so that the chain will ride in the hardest gear. So we're going to unthread the high adjustment screw just a little bit at a time until the chain falls down into that easiest gear. After we've checked that the chain will fall into that easiest gear, we want to double check this adjustment by pushing on the derailleur and seeing if the chain will fall smoothly back down into the hardest gear. If the chain hangs up at all, you want to go ahead and unthread your high limit screw just a little bit more. Now the chain should easily and smoothly fall down into that hardest gear, so we know that we have our high limit screw set correctly. Again, if our high limit screw is set too far out, the chain will fall down onto the frame and we need to thread it in just a little bit. After setting our high limit screw, we need to next reattach our cable here so we can move on to adjusting our cable tension. To do this, we're going to have to reverse the order of how we took it off. Go ahead and push up on the derailleur so that the chain moves up into the easier gears. After we have that, you want to set the cable back into the cable guide, pedal down, and the chain should easily fall into the hardest gear here. If the chain will not fall into this hardest gear, then your cable is too tight and you're going to have to loosen it a little bit. So now we're going to fine-tune the shifting. We shouldn't have to touch our high limit at all because that only limits how far down the chain can come, and we've already set that. So setting the derailleur for how it goes up and down the cassette is all going to be in the wire tension, and that's going to be adjusted with the barrel adjuster here. So let's see how our shifting looks here. When I shifted, the chain moved up. Shift again, the chain did not move, so that means that we need to tighten the wire, maybe 1/8 of a turn, half turn at the most, and check our shifting again. So we'll shift it again. Again, it's still having trouble moving up. It did go eventually, so we know we're on the right track. Give it another 1/8 of a turn. That time it shifted smoothly. Shift again. It had a little trouble, so again we'll tighten the wire a little bit more. Shifted smoothly. Now if we were to tighten our wire too much when we shift, it will overshift sometimes, causing the chain to go over too many gears. And also, when we try coming down the cassette, the chain may not fall freely if the wire is too tight. So we can see here that the chain hangs up a little bit before falling down, so we're going to loosen the wire 1/8 of a turn to see how it looks again. That time it shifted smoothly. Oh, we had a little bit of a hang up there. So because we're trying to get it to fall down the cassette more smoothly, we're going to loosen the wire a little bit more. Now the chain seems to be moving down freely. We'll see how it moves up the cassette. Looks good. The two other screws on the back of the derailleur here are also very important adjustments. If your derailleur pulley is running on the cog here, causing some noise, you can take this B tension screw and thread it in. That will pull the derailleur out, getting the derailleur cog off of the cassette cog, stopping that rubbing from happening. The other screw we still have to address is the low limit screw. This is going to adjust how far up the derailleur can move. If this screw is unthreaded too far, the chain can be overshifted into the spokes here. So we need to make sure that we have this high limit screwed in as far as we can so that the chain does not overshift. If your limit is unthreaded too far, you'll see that there's some play in the derailleur as it tries to overshift. We want to make sure there's none of that play, so to get rid of this play in the derailleur here, we're going to thread the high limit in just a little bit. Now we can see we've gotten rid of that play. We can double check by trying to push it over with the shifter. It shifts smoothly up into the gear. Now we know we've got our high limit, or excuse me, our low limit set correctly.